Yeah. Ooh.
Earthworm Jim 2 for the Sega Saturn. And man, where do I start? If you want to know what the kids are going to be up to, they'll be playing this game, no doubt. One thing this game nails is the weapon selection. There is a fistload of ways to kill anything. With a super laser blaster, homing missiles, three-way gun, a barn blaster that destroys all organic life on the screen, or yeah, a bubble pistol, and it might not be as obviously helpful. But as those soapy little bubbles arise, I get this feeling in my gut that there is a much bigger impact on the Earthworm Jim universe than just what we can comprehend right now, you know? So that suit still handles amazingly. Jim's nimble, has good gun recoil control, and he makes for a hyper cool platformer. But they've swapped some of the controls around, and I was actually still trying to come to grips with it during the last stages, which probably isn't a good sign. So now you press jump once, and he jumps, but double tap it, and he can use this Snot sidekick from his backpack to swing from the ceilings, which is pretty cool. But if you want to use Snot as a parachute, you need to press the fire button while in midair. So I was having a little bit of trouble, but I guess it might have been because I was hardly doing any platforming. Earthworm Jim 2 just has so many different levels and gameplay styles, mixed into the package. So there's a level where Jim has to don this blind cave salamander costume to infiltrate through some organs. Or the isometric shooter stage where he needs to guide a balloon to explode Major Snot at the other side. You also get this reoccurring stage where you need to bounce Peter's puppies back to him to the other side while Psycrow's throwing them out the window. And this is insane, watching the puppies hit the pavement. Each planet is like the summer home of different villains. A lot of them you'll probably recognise from the first game, which is cool. But for having so many different bosses, you really don't fight many boss battles. You get a few mini games instead, like the game show where the worms grind themselves up to form the quiz questions. And there's also a strength test where you need to knock the goodies that float above you. I guess Jim is so good that he puffs himself up as the biggest target possible and floats upwards through an entire stage, the circus level. Like I mentioned, they give you so many guns, so many great ways to kill things, and you barely get a chance to use them. You spend most of the time limited to a single weapon, to get the job done, or avoiding obstacles altogether. And you've probably noticed we haven't done a whole lot of platforming. This game feels really indulgent, no holds barred. They just did whatever they could to keep it fresh, to keep it fun, just threw in a whole bunch of random stuff. So the first two levels, you actually get the platform levels with end bosses. Not like you could call Bob much of a boss fight, but after the first game I didn't really expect them to change tack too much. The second level boss was a bit more challenging. After blasting your way through the dirt in the level, you have to take on this grub, and I really love bosses. It was a really good feeling, fighting something so worthy. And you don't get another platforming stage for ages. All those weapons you've collected in the first level, they're probably worthless by now. But it's just so refreshing to be able to, control the worm again. And I have to admit, this level just brings on so many questions. Just look at where you ended up. You're saving cows from cow-themed aliens and penguins. And this level, it really makes me sad. It's obvious these cows had a pretty great civilization once, and you never really know what caused the downfall. Whether it was these invaders, or if it was economics or politics or religion. I think there's a lot we could learn. You can probably tell that these levels are really awesome. There's a whole lot of variety. Each stage has a unique layout, a unique setting, really particular enemies, booby traps, challenges. Like ISO 9000. Seriously, I do all my paperwork and stuff in WordPad, especially because I can spell words however I want, and I don't get those annoying red worms everywhere. This stage was like a real opener into the corporate world, and man, it's scary. Not as scary as the streets, but it takes all kinds of people. It's just a different kind of battlefield. Going back to the bosses, the last one you get to fight, not including the final race against Psycrow, is fought atop this pizza box, after fighting your way through a level full of food. Mostly meat, but there are some breakfast items on the menu, except the pizza, but that's not allowed on school days anyway. He is kind of an easy boss though. I would have loved to see him, join forces with a few more dinner-only kind of things, like a casserole monster or something. So yeah, to cap this game off, it's a foot race through this like ultra modern Las Vegas. And it's pretty raw, you know. This is past the point of fighting. When you race, all you're thinking about is getting to the end. And man, that's an intense feeling. These guys are arch enemies and they're barely glancing at each other. It's like being in the middle of a biff with your arch enemy and someone yells cops. You keep your eyes straight and all your focus is putting one foot in front of the other. The other side has got the princess what's-her-name waiting for you. And look, that's a win. There's no explosions, no amazing ending cinematic, just a dropping taxi, and the last screen is basically text, you know, with the three main characters. After reading the text, you notice Psycrow changes into a cow, and then the text changes and the princess changes into the cow, and the text changes again and Jim changes into a cow. And this to me just brings up more questions about that cow-themed level. If they all took up, you know, different careers, if they've become actors, if they've just, you know, moved on, or if they've all just gone into hiding, like in that movie Men in Black. Actually, if you finish the Saturn title without using any passwords, you get this screen with Jim playing the game from home. And to me, that really puts this game into perspective. Look, going back to Jim's first game, everything that made it rad and excellent just got better. Jim hits all the right notes. To me, man, Jim's like a rock star. You know, he had his first two performances, he burned out after that. He went 3D, he retired. I mean, at least he didn't milk his fans, you know?